decided on this topic since I know that you've all been through some kind of health crisis. I wanted to bring you back to the basics of the value of food. And that's what I do as a nutritionist. I focus on the value of food as medicine. And Hippocrates was the very wise philosopher from some century that I can't recall. He addressed the fact that we should let food be our medicine and medicine be our food. So hence, eat like you love your body. And I chose this image because I know the ladies love pink in breast cancer survival. So I thought this very strong, empowered lady with her pink gloves on would resonate with US champions. And as Pat said, the CNP honors NNCP basically means that I'm a certified nutritional practitioner. It means I actually went to school and learned something. And the natural nutrition certified practitioner is the natural nutritional clinical practitioner. So that means that I also work in a clinic. But I have my own business. It's called Perfect Health Solutions. And that's what's all about the first slide. And then this slide is about Maggie. So basically, it's just to remind you that in the world of holistic nutrition, because I look at food very closely and very seriously. So food to me is not just something to be enjoyed, which of course we must enjoy it. It is also something that nourishes your body functionally and helps it to function better. So from that perspective, I'm very passionate about sharing with you the power of not just food, but the power of whole food, food in its whole form. For example, an apple versus an apple chip, or a potato versus a potato chip that you find in a package. The whole foods are the ones that come from the earth. And since many of you, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but most of you might be from the Caribbean, or at least from a country that perhaps if you can recall, if you were born there, you would recall that many older folks lived close to the earth. They were really into farming. They knew what an apple looked like when it was picked from a tree, or a breadfruit, or a guava. You could actually see it growing on the tree, as opposed to when you go into exotic part of the supermarket and you see it all packaged up. That's not the real food that we are accustomed to getting. So over the years, food safety has been questioned because mass production of foods in the supermarket are not being given the attention that would be required to nourish our systems. So very often people end up purchasing foods that resemble foods that we grew up with, but they're not really pure, or they've been contaminated with some kind of pesticide or some kind of chemical that can damage our systems. And of course, in the realm of health, when we are exposed to cancer, that's one of the contributing factors, toxins that have been put into our foods. And we have been led to believe that they are good for us. But technically, the foods that we see on the shelf these days, unless we can really address their whole organic nature, they can be very corrupted and therefore damaging to our health. There's another aspect to that argument, which I won't go into. I don't know why the people them do this to us, but that's a different story. Okay. So as I mentioned, food is medicine. And I want to just tell a little story about a gentleman about 6 years ago. He found himself in hospital in Toronto. True story. And he was admitted to hospital, very healthy gentleman, and suddenly had hypertension through the roof, high blood pressure, suddenly diagnosed, and the team of doctors couldn't get it down. They tried everything, all their medicinal medications and so on. They tried to bring it down. It wouldn't go down until one doctor, of course, she's a lady. No, I'm kidding. One female doctor came to him and asked him, "Sir, what foods are you eating, that maybe you've not been eating recently? You've suddenly begun to eat maybe large amounts, maybe a different kind of diet that you've been on." And he said, "Nothing exceptional. I still continue to have my 50 jelly beans a day in the hospital, but other than that, it's not a big deal." And she said, jelly beans. What kind of jelly beans are you having? And he said, well, I particularly love licorice. So I've been eating a lot of licorice jelly beans. 50, 50. So
Wow.
she went and researched it, and she found out that licorice is a herb, which of course in the natural health world, we know that it's a herb that behaves like the hormone aldosterone in the body, which elevates our blood pressure.
Oh,
So it was his practice of eating not just jelly beans, not just any old jelly beans, but the licorice, as well in the high quantity, which would be considered to be a therapeutic quantity if you could address that with sweets. He was eating it as if it were medicine, so it was affecting his body medicinally. And even though jelly beans are not good for us, it's just an example that in that quantity on a consistent level, it changed his whole system, and he had his licorice overdose and his blood pressure went through the roof. So there you have it. So even if it's a bad food, it can also affect the body. So keep that in mind, that a good food can also do the same job.
wow.
So as Pat mentioned before, you are all focused on mind, body, and spirit healing. And that's exactly what holistic nutrition is all about. It is using food as medicine to help the body to heal and to remember that we're connected. We're all a unique and fearfully and wonderfully made being, but we're not separate. Like your mind and how you're thinking and your mood is not separate from how your body is being nourished and from how your spirit or your soul emotions feel. It's all connected, and you're to keep that in mind when you're addressing your overall health. Each one of us is unique. So even as you hear the information today, keep in mind that you're unique and your body will respond differently for certain situations. For example, if you're taking supplements, you have to keep in mind that it has to be the right supplement at the right dose for you, the right person at the right time. And as Pat mentioned, my focus as a holistic nutritionist is nutritional counseling. I have my own business, and I also um, take care of one-on-one counseling at 2 clinics. And I love health education. This is my bailiwick right here. I love sharing information about um, just the value of good nutrition and how it can change your health. My goal always is to support women, as you heard, to empower them to manage specific areas that I like um, to support them with. Of course, stress, blood sugar, I find is a big one, menopausal issues, immunity, and most recently cancer, as I'm just about to get my designation as a certified holistic cancer practitioner. So, so it's very, very fitting and kind of amazing that I'm here. I'm really excited to be here. Um, so I'm sure you would all agree with me. A healthy outside therefore starts from the inside. The glow comes from the inside out, and it's not just the spirit. It's the food that you put into your body. It's the way your mind thinks. Did you know, for example, that a thought can change your cell chemically? So if you're having a negative thought, it can affect your cells negatively. So let me just continue. I don't have a clock in front of me. I don't know what I just did. I don't have a clock in front of me, Pat. So please tell me if I'm making good time.
You're good.
All right, okay. So just wanted to say that your body is somewhat like a garden. Do we have any garden lovers here? Your body is like a garden. It's very vulnerable, and it needs to establish a good terrain in order for it to function well. Just as a garden needs good soil and good nourishment in the soil for things to grow, that is the same way our body works. Our body needs to be set up to have a good terrain. Remember I mentioned bone broth? Bone broth is one of those foods that sets the terrain up just right as a food. So many of you might have heard of this term inflammation, but I just wanted to address with you what it really means. It essentially is the root cause of all disease. Every diagnosis that you've ever heard of, it started with the body becoming more and more inflamed, and eventually the inflammation did so much damage that it changes the structure of your tissues and starts to break down your cells and so on. So by the inflammation, what I mean is not the acute inflammation that you might be familiar with Whereas if you got a cut on the outside of your hand and it started to bleed and get swollen and you felt pain and there was heat and maybe a little bit of redness around it, you would know that that is your body trying to heal itself, and that's called acute inflammation. If acute inflammation continues for a long time without resolution, it changes to become known as chronic or silent inflammation. So what that essentially means, that whatever caused the injury to the tissue, whether it's an infection or a cut, the inflammation starts to take place on the inside of our bodies. And we can't see, we might not even notice that there is pain. We don't feel the heat, we don't know that they're swelling, but it's the same principle going on the inside of the body. And when that happens for a long time, you can just imagine the damage that it's starting to do to your insides. Symptoms like arthritis, aches and pains, stiffness and swelling, things that we give credit for aging is not really true. We need to address those symptoms and really get to the root of the inflammation of the matter. Just in case you haven't heard, there are tests that you can go and get done with your medical doctor, or preferably your natural health doctor, who will really go to town and really help you with that research and getting under the root cause of why you might have a high marker for inflammation. But here are some tests that you can request and be pushy about. C-reactive protein is one. I'm sure if you had a diagnosis of cancer at any time, they would have done this test on you. Or the erythrocyte sedimentary rate, which is the ESR. Hemoglobin A1C, which is the blood sugar test over a period of 3 months. That one is also that one that can point towards inflammation, because as I said, at the root of all illness, it's inflammation. So you can also do a homocysteine test. I want to point out to you that homocysteine is not something that doctors like to do, but believe it or not, it's one that is vital, especially for people of color, because it is the test that can help to prevent cardiovascular issues. So if you're very aware of getting that test done, you can also check your markers to see if your body is pointing towards possible arterial issues or heart-related issues and so on. So if you know it runs in your family, for example, you might want to push for it. The doctor might tell you, oh, it's expensive. You don't listen to him or her. So inflammation, as I mentioned, it can be acute, like you cut your finger with a splinter, or it can be chronic, usually based on your diet or autoimmune disorders and stress. Stress promotes inflammation, inflammation promotes disease. And that's one of the reasons why you hear people saying, try to manage your stress, lower your stress, don't get stressed out, don't give in to stress. That's one of the reasons, because it literally leads to disease. And inflammation is based on your immune response. So your immune system is very important in how your body recognizes the damaged tissue, deals with foreign substances in the body, and protects your body. Your immune system is essentially, think of it sort of like a military defense deployment that your body has been given to protect it. And it starts from your skin going inside. Once your skin is disrupted or hurt, you're exposing yourself to infection. And if your immune system isn't working properly, the germ or the pathogen is going to get an opportunity to invade through your skin. So pay attention to nicks and scrapes. And as we get older, our skin might get thinner. Really nourish and protect your skin, because that is the initial first defense that your body has to protect itself from infection that could lead to long-term inflammation. So you asked me, how do I reduce inflammation, Maggie? Well, it's very easy. There are simple ways of just, every day we have to eat, so we might as well eat with intention. That's my thought. So there are lots of foods out there that can help you to reduce inflammation. Again, remember to pay attention to the source, where it's coming from. Make sure it's whole food, preferably organic. You might think that you can't afford organic foods, but if you buy less packaged, less preserved foods, you'd be surprised. So foods such as nut butters, nuts and seeds like chia and flax and almond butter, organic peanut butter, pumpkin seed butter, all of those are great sources of omega-3s. and good oils, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, all of those, I call them clean oils when they're not oxidized. If an oil is burnt, like, like deep fried oil that you might find in a fast food restaurant, those are not good for you because they oxidize your cells and break down your cells and cause inflammation and damage. But if it's clean oils that you're managing at home, you're not turning the heat up too high, you're not affecting or oxidizing the oil's nature, then those are considered to be clean oils. And that's a whole other talk. But just think about good fats. Fats do not make you fat. So keep good fats in your diet, like avocados, olives. Salmon and mackerel are fatty fish that are very, very high in omega-3s, and therefore they will serve a good purpose in helping to reduce and protect your body from inflammation. If you, yes, go ahead.
Can we raise our hands for questions? I think Leela has a question. Do you
I said so, yeah.
Yeah, you
of
did.
course.
Leela, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what about grapeseed oil? Is that any good? It's not on your list here, but I'm just wondering.
It's not on my list. It's not on my list because I'm not doing a talk on fats. But Leila, yes, absolutely. Grapeseed oil is a very good one for cooking because it has a high smoke point, so it won't oxidize quickly.
Okay,
So
I use that a lot, so I just wanted to make sure.
No, you're fine. Salmon and mackerel are great fatty fish. But of course, if you already have inflammation, thanks for your question, Leila. If you have if you know you have chronic inflammation, of course, the older we get, sometimes we haven't been paying close attention, maybe we already have inflammation, then that's where supplementation comes in. Foods can be taken in high amounts and they're considered to be therapeutic at that point, but you can only have so much and no more in any given time. And so that's where supplementation comes in. It becomes the intense amount of the nutrient that can fill in the gaps that you are deficient in. So you could take an omega-3 fish oil gel cap, or you could take the liquid, and that would give you, maybe 10 times the amount in a piece of salmon, baked salmon. You just get a much higher dose. And of course, if you already have a pre-existing condition, for example, arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, then it would be a good thing for you to take. Omega-3 generally doesn't just reduce inflammation, it does a lot of other wonderful things for us as well. And turmeric is also another great supplement that helps to reduce inflammation in the body. So keep those in mind. And of course, always make sure you ask lots of questions if you're trying to find out from, say, a health store. Make sure you ask questions. And if you're trying to get a supplement, try and get the food-based ones first, because those are the ones that the body understands. Food is
I have another question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Turmeric. How do you prepare the turmeric? Is it okay to have raw turmeric, or do you have to cook it, or what is the difference?
So if you're having turmeric as the food, then you must make sure that you eat it alongside with a little bit of black pepper or some kind of pepper that improves the absorption, like cayenne or black pepper. In particular, black pepper is known for helping the absorption. And also make sure that you have it with some good fats, because that helps the absorption. Turmeric is a cousin to ginger. It's a little bit more widely researched than ginger, and it has been proven to reduce inflammation, but ginger also does a good job there. And turmeric is just a bit harder for the body to absorb, so keep that in mind. But
okay, so what I do, I usually make it at night. I use almond milk, and I blend up the turmeric, and I put grated ginger in it and a little bit of honey and some black pepper.
That's perfect.
Am I good?
You're good. You're making a version of what is known as golden milk. And golden milk is out of India. It finds its roots in India, where you make this delicious warm beverage from turmeric, some alternative to dairy milk. Dairy tends to be, because it's commercially made now, it tends to have a lot of antibiotics in it. And as a result, that promotes inflammation. So an alternative plant-based milk is preferred. So like how you're having the almond milk, warm almond milk, a little bit of honey from a good source. You can add a little bit of cinnamon if you want to that. and it's really delicious. It's called golden milk, and there are a
Okay.
couple of other versions, but you have the right ingredients from the basic, so that's perfect.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Sorry,
Maggie, I have,
before we
Yes.
move on to that, I just want to piggyback off of Lila's question, actually.
Sure. Sure.
So what if you take the turmeric root, you know, you take the skin off and you cut up the turmeric
Mhm.
and pour some hot water on it and drink it as a tea, and then add a little black pepper. And then at the end of your drinking the tea, if you chew on a couple of those slices of turmeric, is that okay?
That's fine. Again, just keep in mind that some people, when you're doing it with that level of strength, some people's response from the gut can be a little bit irritated.
Mhm.
But in terms of the tea, that's fine. You could also turn that tea into the liquid base for, say, you were cooking brown rice. You could use it as the foundation and make turmeric rice. So if you want to leave out the alternative milk, that's fine, and have it as a tea, that's fine, as long as you put the black pepper in there, because that helps absorption.
Okay, thanks, Maggie.
You're welcome.
Maggie, I found out something about turmeric last year. My dentist is, I think she's from Iran.
Mhm.
And while she was doing my teeth, she noticed my gums, and she asked me, well, what have you been having? So I told her I was having, you know, I have my turmeric milk, my milk tea. She said, yes, that's good, that's fine. But she said, do it in moderation, because turmeric is also a blood thinner.
It is.
If it's overdone, a blood thinner.
It is.
And what did she say? It can weaken. So she said everything in moderation, because she's very health conscious.
Yes.
But I don't know if I might have been overdoing it, because when she was examining my gums, she was saying, I just want you to be balanced. She said, even me, we use turmeric in our culture a lot, but I have to make sure I balance it.
Okay, well, let me explain that to you, Pat. Remember the jelly beans?
Yeah.
Yes. So food can become medicinal, and when you're taking it, if you have a cup a day, you'll be fine. You know, that's not a big deal. If she noticed your gums were bleeding, she might have, you know, associated that with it, but that's not likely. The turmeric that can be dangerous to you in higher doses is the supplementation. So that's why if you take the turmeric as a food-based supplement, then be aware that that's a better choice, because the food-based, your body will understand, and it will use what's inside the turmeric to help you, which is the curcumin. But if you take curcumin on its own as a supplement, that can be even more dangerous, because it could damage your kidneys long term. A lot of people don't know that. But generally, turmeric or the curcumin extract as a supplement, you must watch it if you're on blood thinners already. Omega-3 is also a blood thinner. So if you're taking those two supplements, yes, if you're taking those two supplements and you have to have an operation, for example, you want to come off them before the operation. You don't want to keep taking
thank you for that. And that's not to say anything against turmeric.
No, it's fine as a food. The golden milk is fine.
Because I think there was some other things that might have been, and again, in balance.
And remember, it's also found in curries. You know, if you like to have curry chicken, you're having turmeric in there. It's already in there, right? So
thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. So let's move on from inflammation to maintaining good gut health. So these are things that we want to remind you to eat like you love your body. So one of the things you want to do is make sure that you maintain a healthy gut. Bernard Jensen was one of my health heroes. My grandma actually met him, which is another story in life. But he was from another century, literally, like, I think he was born in the 18th century, if I'm not mistaken, or 19th century, and died in the 20th century, yes. Anyway, he is known for his mandate about good gut health. He even has a book on juicing, and he refers to this quote is he's famous for life and death begins in the colon. So I want you to think about that in your gut, the very core of your being, that center that keeps us together almost, at that very center is where we need to focus our attention and to support your good health. if you think about the digestive system, it actually starts in the mouth and ends in the rectum. It's one long digestive tract, and it's only about 1 inch thick. So it's not very, very thick. It's not devoid of being exposed to certain deficiencies, because it needs to maintain its consistency. If it becomes thin, or the mucosal membranes that line it become irritated, then you have digestive issues, and you have a plethora of them. People are always complaining about some digestive related issue. One of the famous ones is leaky gut. And leaky gut is basically the weakening of your small intestinal wall, where you might have particles of food that are not properly digested and having difficulty going through the small intestine, where it would be absorbed normally. Because it's large, it starts to find its way through the wall of the small intestine into your bloodstream. It doesn't belong there. The body knows it doesn't belong there. It tags it as an enemy invader, and gets rid of it. And if this continues to happen over time, instead of your body tagging it as an invader and getting rid of it, it now tags it as an enemy, turns on your body, and that's how you get an autoimmune illness. So one of the things that you have to be very careful is knowing how to seal and keep your small intestinal walls together, and avoid leaky gut or repair leaky gut. So another thing is, you might not think of your mouth as being a part of your digestive lining, but many people speak about irritation in the mouth, ulcers, sore mouth, all sorts of things that they don't realize it has to do with what's going on in your abdominal area, in your colon, in your small intestine. So another thing that I'll mention in the next slide, but I still want to tell you, is that your digestive system in your gut, in your small intestines and colon, 70% of your immune system lives there. 70. So if your gut health is off, your immune system is off, and that's not a good thing. So that's another reason you want to pay close attention to your digestion. If your digestion is out of balance, it's called dysbiosis. You'll hear big terms like that. It's really because of your good gut bacteria being out of balance, and you'll see it through symptoms such as bloating, acid reflux, gas, burping, constipation, and diarrhea. And many people take those things very lightly. They think it's just, it's just bloating. But actually, it's your body saying, I'm out of balance. I need to be rebalanced. You need to do something to help me to get back to where I need to be. And lots of those causes are from just not even washing your produce properly, toxins that are stuck on them in your foods, low stomach acid, and so it passes straight into your digestive system. Additives in foods, packaged foods, can throw you off. They can create allergens. Pesticides that, when you don't wash your produce properly, you get pesticides into your system that makes your body toxic. And some people are very allergic or sensitive to proteins as a result of no beneficial bacteria. When you have beneficial microbes in your gut, they help you with your absorption. They can literally help somebody who is mildly lactose intolerant, for example, to absorb lactose. So having the right balance of good bacteria in your gut is key. Some of the foods that can heal and help your gut are bone broth, like I mentioned before, and fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, miso, which is soybean, and kombucha. And in the world of breast cancer, you're probably scared of soy, but believe it or not, it's a myth. Soy is no longer considered to be something that promotes estrogens in breast cancer. Did you know that? There are lots of other foods as well that are phytoestrogens, and they don't create estrogen. They just have a mild estrogenic effect. Again, you don't want to be overindulging, but it's not the enemy, whereas once they thought it was. Supplements such as probiotics are great for restoring your gut to full balance and giving you back a good contribution of beneficial bacteria. The minute you start to have gut imbalances such as bloating, there may be a few of other things that you need to do, but taking probiotics will be a key one to helping to settle down that bloating in your gut. So just to remind you, while you're doing that, I want you to eat organic whole foods. They're not just nutrient dense, but they're going to provide good information that your body understands. Look at the source of the foods that you're eating and keep in mind that even though sometimes organic foods are a little bit more expensive, sometimes it's worth it because you're going to get the nutrition, you're going to get the density, you're going to get the nourishment, and you're going to get the real deal. You're going to get good food. And then when you're eating the food, try and eat foods that look like this picture. Eat the rainbow. And I don't mean taste the rainbow like Skittles. I mean good, solid, real, whole foods. And when you're eating, try to eat as much plant-based. It doesn't mean you can't eat meat, but try to eat as much plant-based in your plate as possible. That will give you beneficial prebiotics, setting up the terrain like that garden image that I mentioned, because the prebiotic is the food that the beneficial bacteria will eat and will help them to multiply so that they can take over your gut and help that terrain to be nice and solid. Probiotics love fiber, and that's what they feed on, and that's what a prebiotic essentially is. It's the fiber found in foods. So as you probably know, you're probably all more aware of this than I am, but the main causes of cancer are, years ago, they used to think it was just genetics, but it turns out it's actually a very small percentage of cancers that are caused from just genetics alone. It's often a combination of many factors, but one of the few of the key ones are immune health. As I mentioned, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. You really need to take care of your gut and therefore strengthen your immune system and therefore strengthen yourself against recurrence of cancer as well as cancer. In the environment that we live in, sometimes people can go through life even if they have the genetics, and it just depends on their environment. Maybe they're exposed to really clean, healthy, organic produce. Maybe they're not alcohol drinkers. Maybe their lifestyle is stress-free. And so their environment has actually cultured for them the right mix in which cancer wouldn't thrive. That is known as epigenetics. Epigenetics is a term that they have found where, depending on your environment, your genes can be turned on or off. So if you even had a cancer gene and you were in the right environment, your cell might never turn on and become vulnerable to cancer. It's fascinating. There's a whole new world for epigenetics out there. So keeping that in mind, you need to know the kind of environment that you want to surround yourself with, including stress-free, to help you to thrive rather than just to survive. You want to overcome these things, right? Carcinogens, of course, are toxic substances that promote cancer. And one of the most well-known is burnt food, unfortunately. But things like asbestos and inhaling, even chemicals like radon in the earth. There's some things we can't control, but there's some that we can. As I mentioned, chronic and silent inflammation would definitely be one of the contributing factors. A lack of exercise, a lack of generation of oxygen in your body, which exercise promotes, and excessive refined sugar consumption. It doesn't seem logical, but it's not a direct cause, but it does contribute to disease and therefore contributes to cancer.
You have a hand raised, Maggie.
Oh, I can't tell. Sorry.
It's
Oh,
okay. June.
Julie. Is it
June.
Julie?
June.
June.
Hey,
Yes.
Maggie, I just wanted to just ask you a quick question, because when you
Sure.
talked about the carcinogen and you said burnt food,
Mhm.
and then it brought me back to when you said you like jerk chicken.
Mhm.
And I know that most of our jerk food is basically, almost burnt over an open flame if you're doing it the real authentic Jamaican way.
I don't do it that way anymore. I do it in my oven at home.
I know, but then I'm looking and thinking, well, have we been doing it wrong all this time or eating it
Oh,
wrong
yes.
all this time?
Oh, yes. But, you have to remember that thing about the environment. So even though the Jamaican might go crazy with their burnt food down there, they might also go crazy with sweating it out in the sun. And so the carcinogens and the toxicity doesn't stay in the body. So I'm not saying that it's good to make it a habit of doing that and then you go and sort it out. But I think for sure, if you are a person who likes your barbecue chicken, for example, and it's burnt, and then you sit at home all winter and do no exercise, then you're actually creating the environment for disease to grow, and it's likely for cancer. It is known that cancer has to, like, literally, the mutation of your DNA has to be exposed at least 7 times before it actually sets into your body. So
70?
7 times.
7.
In other words, the contributing factors, it's not just 1 or 2, it has to be a few hitting the same cell at least 7 times for cancer to start in that cell. Isn't that crazy?
It's interesting that it would be 7.
That is also interesting.
God's lover.
Yes, I had never thought of it like that, but yes, you're quite right. So, like from a, so for example, if you only eat sugar also, refined sugar, the synthetic sugars that are processed, when that's exposed to your cell over and over and over again, your body becomes acidic, and cancer loves an acidic environment. So that's another example of how repetition can lead to the destruction of your DNA. And it also disrupts your colon, it disrupts your bowel, it disrupts your gut. So too much sugar, definitely not a good idea, especially if it's synthetic, processed, refined sugar. So there's a relationship, as you can see here, between the gut, your immune health, and cancer. So just a quick overview. If your immune system is weak, it means that your gut is weak, and therefore the microbiota is going to be out of balance. As a result, you're going to have dysbiosis, and you're going to have inflammation. All as we age, that is always a challenge. So as we get older, we have to literally build our body's defenses, maybe take a few more supplements to support your immune system. Because as you can tell, this is when the DNA starts to break down. The tissues in our bodies have constantly been under attack, but the body's immune system has always been strong, rushing in to remove it. And if it hasn't been strong, then you now know that that's what you need to strengthen. You need to strengthen your gut, and you need to strengthen your immune system. Those 2 key factors really help to make a difference. So Pat asked me to address, since it's Black History Month, since I love women and love supporting the cause of women and supporting health, I considered that coming from the Caribbean and considering women of color, what are some of the issues that we have to deal with? And what are some of the issues that I have seen with ladies that I have taken care of in the clinic? And of course, blood sugar is a big passion of mine, and you're about to find out why it's so vital and so important to you. If you manage your blood sugar, you literally can take away 100 different diseases from your body. Can you believe that? If only we knew this when we were 12. It's the truth.
Again?
If you learned how to manage your blood sugar from you were little, you would take away like over 100 diseases very easily. So managing your blood sugar is actually your way of preventing your body from going towards diabetes. And by the diabetes, I mean type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition that people are born with. It's affecting the pancreas. The body is turning on itself. Remember, I mentioned the autoimmune attacks itself. So the body's attacking the pancreas from birth with type 1 diabetes. It means it's not producing insulin. Your body can't produce insulin. You can die. And years ago, people would die from starvation from type 1 diabetes. Now they're calling Alzheimer's, just as a sidebar, Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes.
What?
So yes, I'll tell you about that in a second. And type 2, yes. And type 2 diabetes, years ago, children didn't get it. So what has changed? Now we have juvenile diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is becoming an epidemic. It's almost, in North America, it's pretty much an epidemic. And that's because the diet tends to be unbalanced, imbalanced, because we're not learning how to balance our blood sugar. Most disease doesn't start, 1 year and then show up the next year. It takes at least 10 years for disease to manifest itself. Cancer, 8 to 10 years usually. diabetes at least 10 years. So if you've been eating your whole life and not knowing how to manage your blood sugar, not knowing about the foods that spike your blood sugar and cause your blood sugar to remain high, if you've been eating like that all your life, then by the time you hit your 40s, you're trending towards diabetes in a very, very strong way. A lot of us don't even understand the tests that the doctors ask us to do. And the doctors usually won't tell you when, this is the medical doctor, they usually won't tell you when you're close to the borderline. They'll wait until you're past the borderline before they start to tell you, oh, you know, you need to watch your sugar.
Yeah.
So you need to keep in mind some of the numbers that you can watch for. Blood glucose levels that they test for are usually fasting blood sugars. That's one moment in time, maybe based on how your body managed sugar for the last 12 hours, what you ate last, and what spiked your blood sugar. By spiking your blood sugar, I mean your blood suddenly has a high level of sugar in it, and then it drops very rapidly. Spike and drop, spike and drop. That is a habit that leads to diabetes. You want to have a regulated, even release of blood sugar in your bloodstream in order for your body to do well. The HbA1c test there that you see, it is basically testing how much sugar is attached to the hemoglobin that is found in my red blood cells. Hemoglobin is a protein, and the glucose is the blood sugar. So if glucose is attaching itself to a protein, your blood cells look very clumpy. They can't flow. Your body can't function properly. You're not getting enough glucose into the cell because the cell is shutting glucose out. And glucose is what your body uses as energy. So you'll find, you know how we get old and people say, oh, I'm so tired. It must be stress, or I'm so tired. I feel really tired. Sometimes that has to do with what you're eating, and your body is slowing down because it's not getting the glucose inside the cell to convert it to energy. It's not getting it inside the cell because the cell is saying, the cells are very feisty, you know, they're very fresh and out of it. The cells will lock the door and tell insulin, listen, I don't care what you think you're doing. Your job might be to escort glucose into the cell, but I'm shutting the door because I'm tired of it. I don't want to have any more to do with you. So that means that the sugar has to find itself outside, sitting in the blood, getting high. And when it gets to such a high concentration, the only job that insulin has to do at that point is to whisk away that excess sugar and store it in your muscles and store it in your liver. And eventually insulin goes crazy. It finds its way around your body. It starts to wreak havoc with your nerves. It starts to wreak havoc with your eyes. Your eyes have no way of blocking sugar coming into your eyes. And that's why people get all sorts of eye issues when they have high blood sugar. So our goal, yes, go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, protein, I heard you say protein. I know that we're running, so we're going to wrap up.
I'm almost done.
But protein and sugar are not best of friends.
No, they're not. And
So-
that's why you have to keep in mind for Alzheimer's, that's why they're calling it type 3, because glucose is the food that the brain understands. And then there are amyloid proteins in the brain as well. And when you overindulge in glucose and the glucose has nowhere else to go, that excess sugar gets sent to the brain. It starts to harden the cell membrane, and that stops the processing of the information the body understands, the glucose into the cell. It stops it because the protein and sugar mixing hardens the cell membrane, and you can't get information in, you can't get information out.
I just love the
can
way
it be
you
re-
put it.
Can it be
What?
reversed?
With Alzheimer's, that's a little bit harder, but with type 2 diabetes, yes, with diet, many people have reversed their type 2 diabetes with diet. So keep in mind that you want to watch out for some insulin markers. So there's no actual, at this point, I think they're just discovering some actual tests that you can do for insulin. So you can test blood sugar, but they're just discovering insulin tests. And when glucose is released in the body, the same amount of insulin is released. Insulin is either a fat burning hormone or a fat storing hormone. And so when you start to see your midsection getting a little bit muffin top like and looking almost like it's its own organ doing its own thing, that's a marker, that's a physical marker that insulin is out of control and that your body is off balance. There's a gentleman, he's a medical doctor, Dr. Gerald Raven, in 1987. He discovered that hypertension, obesity, cholesterol, and diabetes started to provide symptoms that went together, and he started to call it Syndrome X. As time has passed, they then moved on to call it metabolic syndrome. Then they called it insulin resistance. Then they call it prediabetes. But I wanted to show you the relationship between what tends to be people of color's issues: hypertension, obesity, cholesterol, and diabetes. All of those together is really insulin resistance. And it is just this gentleman discovering these four, that they work together, and he called them, really what it is insulin resistance, that the cell is blocking insulin from getting glucose into the cell that promotes high blood sugar. So you will find that when you go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, you have hypertension, let me give you a drug for cholesterol. This is a very difficult situation because the doctor is preempting the idea that if you have hypertension, you're likely to become obese, and likely you'll have to get your cholesterol checked, and likely you're going to get diabetes anyway. It doesn't have to be that way. There are ways that you can reduce your inflammation, manage your hypertension. I'm not telling you not to take the medication, but keep in mind that foods and supplementation naturally can keep all of those under check. For example, did you know that if you supplement with magnesium on a daily basis in a certain kind of form, the right dose for the right person, you can keep your hypertension down? Even if you were on medication and you came off, it can actually keep it down. It manages inflammation. So the same thing, blood sugar balance is managed by protein, fats, and fiber. So you want to eat protein, fats, and fiber with every meal, and you'll be on the road to balancing your blood sugar and creating the environment, the terrain in your body that will not be prone to diabetes. Keep a close look on those numbers. You want your number to be below 6. So, almost wrapping up. Syndrome X comes now. That was 1987. Now it comes with all these symptoms on top of everything. So if you find that you have hypertension, you might find that later on you develop arthritis, you have memory problems, brain fog, maybe you have polycystic ovarian syndrome and you didn't realize it was connected to diabetes and blood sugar. Maybe you have snoring suddenly out of nowhere. You say, but I never used to snore. This is why. High triglycerides. High triglycerides are fats that are floating around in your blood. All of these are connected to your metabolism, which is connected to how you balance your blood sugar. And that's why it was known as metabolic syndrome. Syndrome X, as you can see, I tried to demonstrate why it's called Syndrome X, because he said, chances are if somebody had hypertension, they would get diabetes, or chances are they get cholesterol, or chances are if you were obese, you'd develop diabetes. So it became an X and they call it Syndrome X, but the root of it was silent inflammation. So if you can manage your inflammation, you can manage these health issues that we're prone to. And this is the quickest way to do it, to help to prevent it. Support the body like you love it. So eat more antioxidant-rich foods. Remember I told you to eat a rainbow. Blueberries, strawberries, even a few grapes every now and again. They're high in sugar, but don't eat them by themselves. Add some cinnamon. Cinnamon has been proven to balance your blood sugar. So add cinnamon to everything you eat. Phytonutrients, so more plant-based foods. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't have meat. And when you do have meat, try to have grass-fed meat. But phytonutrients are just very multifaceted, nutritious foods that are very rich in minerals, which also help your digestion. Manage your blood sugar. When you eat with protein, fats, and fiber at the same time. Fats do not make you fat. It's excess sugar that makes us fat. So eat more fats that are good for you, that will not damage your cells, because I'm very mindful that you want to protect yourself from cancer. So eat foods that don't oxidize, which is why you eat antioxidant foods. Oxidation breaks down your cells. Manage your immune system. So eat foods that help you with that. The term an apple a day keeps the doctor away is still true. Apples are rich in vitamin C, very good for your immune system. Pumpkin seeds are high in zinc. very good for your immune system. Garlic generally is good for your, excuse me, for your gut. They promote beneficial bacteria for most people's gut. Some people are sensitive to it. Cremini mushrooms are rich in vitamin D, get as much sunshine. Very important point for people of color to remember that because you have beautiful tans, your body is rich in melanin, and melanin deepens the skin tone, but it also blocks out the absorption of vitamin D. So
Yeah.
we need more of vitamin D in our lives, people. You need to be supplementing with it if you live in Canada, because you're way far from the sun. And the only time that you really get any absorption is between May and October. In Canada, between October and May, we get no vitamin D from sunshine. None.
Thank you.
Zero.
That is a point that I was trying to bring up at a meeting last week. Just what you said, because I had just learned a little bit of what another nurse was saying, that there's a mix between, so I heard that you have to take vitamin, is it K, Maggie? I think we talked about vitamin
DNK.
Pushes the D to the cells.
Yes.
But we've been told, many of us have been told that because of our melanin, we don't need as much vitamin D, which is
it's the opposite way.
It's the complete opposite, because
it's the opposite.
It protects us from damage.
Yeah.
But we still need to feed the cells with the D.
Yeah. So the deeper your skin tone is, the more vitamin D you need. And you definitely need to supplement with it in Canada. Like, I don't even eat your cremini mushrooms if you like mushrooms. Get out in the sunshine during the summer. But if you're living here, for sure, if your skin tone is dark, including me, look how I'm a pale Jamaican, as my honey calls me, I'm a pale Jamaican. I supplement with vitamin D because when I came and I did a vitamin D test, you can all go to your medical doctor and get it done for about $30, $35. They don't tell you about it, but please do it so you get a sense of where your baseline is. And I was below normal, way below normal.
Yeah.
So,
and you
How
just
many milligrams? How many milligrams?
The average person can get away with 2,000 to 3,000 in the winter. But please remember that you need to do your test so you know where you fall, because I would have assumed that because I was in the tropics and I was going home every year and getting my sunshine and storing it up, that I had vitamin D in my body, but I didn't. And my indicator was that I was getting a cold at the drop of a hat. So vitamin D is very important for our health, especially if you've ever had cancer. So
Maggie, there are two questions.
You might need more if you've had cancer. You might need a higher level.
Yeah, I take about 3,000 a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
And I take a minimum of 3,000 vitamin C.
Good. As a holistic nutritionist, I can tell you to take 4,000, but I can't tell you to take higher than that. So make sure you get your limits checked.
But there is vitamin C and magnesium, right? Because there are two questions. Jacqueline and Patrice have two questions in the chat about magnesium.
Okay, I'll answer that in a second. So just drink lots of water. Remember to stay away from your burnt foods. Remember, water is cleansing. It flushes out your system, and it also has oxygen in its formula, H2O, O for oxygen. And then watch the toxicity in your environment as best as possible. Pollutions, asbestos, radon, all of those. You just watch them carefully and try to put things in place that help you. And with that, I'll take the last couple of questions. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you learned something and you weren't confused by so much information. You can find me at Maggie at Perfect Health Solutions if you have more questions. But in terms of the magnesium, what were the questions about the magnesium?
So Jacqueline says, can you elaborate a bit more on the magnesium intake? How do you take, and what form, and how much?
Great question.
I know you can answer it. Maggie, can you tell me if a cup of cacao at night?
Yes, cacao. If anybody grew up with chocolate tea in Jamaica, for example, or if you know that the cocoa plant, the cocoa plant, it usually comes to us as a bitter, non-sweetened plant. And when you take that, when it's processed and you read a label in a natural health store that is written raw cacao, almost like they misspelled cocoa, that is the one that you want to take, because that is a raw, unsweetened, highest source of magnesium in a natural food. So all things green, everywhere you look that's green, you'll find it in a food that's green. It's magnesium rich, but raw cacao is the highest source, and it's also very high in fiber. So you get your fiber in at the same time. So if you have a cup of hot chocolate, preferably not with the wrong sweetener, then something like maple syrup or a good source of honey, just for a little toops, you don't need too much. That can take the edge off the bitterness, and it can be a very delicious drink. Add some cinnamon, alternate with your golden milk, for example. In terms of the format, now if you have a secondary illness, so let's say if anybody here has any of the illnesses I mentioned, like if you have been diagnosed with diabetes or been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, if the doctor tells you you have pre-diabetes, treat it as if you have diabetes, because you're just very close to where he wants you, so he can slap you with medication, unfortunately. So magnesium can definitely do an excellent amount of support with supplementation if you've been diagnosed or if you think you could be on the trajectory towards diabetes. If you already have the diagnosis, I'd recommend about 800 milligrams of magnesium bisglycinate. That's the form that's the most absorptive in the body. And that one can really make a big difference to how your body processes glucose. Magnesium is a mineral. It's not just good for gut health, but it is good for over 300 uses in the body, one of which is helping insulin to get glucose into the cell. So it also reduces inflammation, as I mentioned, as it relates to hypertension. So if you make a habit of supplementing with it and you're just supplementing to maintain your health, then I'd say between 200 and 400 milligrams a day for women is fine. But if you already have a pre-existing condition like diabetes, or if you think you're on that road, I'd go as high as 800 milligrams. Just start slow and build up. But it makes a big difference. Your body loses magnesium very easily with stress. So it makes sense if you can't get in all your vegetables every single day, then if you're supplementing with magnesium, you know you're going to always have it. You won't get deficient from it. Make sense?
Fabulous.
Did I answer the question?
Jacqueline, was that sufficient? And Patrice?
My question was how to get magnesium from food, because I'm taking magnesium supplements, but when I go for my blood work, it's still a bit low.
Okay.
So can you just remind me of which foods are rich in magnesium?
Really, really easy again, Patrice. Any food that is green is rich in magnesium. My favorite sources would be kale, broccoli. Broccoli is rich in magnesium and calcium. Green beans that we call string beans in Jamaica. Any of those deep green leafy vegetables are rich in magnesium. Raw cacao, as long as it's not cocoa and sweetened, just the raw cacao is the highest source. The one like what Pat is showing you is the highest source of magnesium. So you can have it as a nice beverage in the winter. Perfect. Then the chia seeds that I mentioned earlier, those are also rich in magnesium and calcium. So that's another great source of magnesium. So it's abundant. You can get it abundantly. As long as you're having green leafy salads every day, you're getting some magnesium in. But it makes sense to supplement because we lose it so easily as well.
What
Okay,
about
thank
the
you.
little green
You're
peas?
welcome.
So
The what, Winter?
The small green peas?
Yes, you'll have a little bit of magnesium in there. Remember, it's a whole food. So the beauty of whole food is that your body takes it in and then it knows what to do. So think of it almost like the food that you're taking in is like mail that's going to the central sorting office for dispatch to different centers. So when you eat kale, for example, your body says, oh, vitamin A, this is good for the immune system. This is also good for processing for the eyes. It's good for the macula on the eye. The macula is orange. This is a tip. The macula is orange. Most foods that are orange go directly to your eye and help the macula so you can see well. Vitamin A, one of the highest sources though, is found in kale. Kale is rich in magnesium. So the body, when you eat kale, the body will dispatch the magnesium to where it's needed, and it will dispatch the vitamin A. Just like the apple. The apple is rich in fiber. It's rich in vitamin C. Vitamin C is very good for us, for our immune system. Apples are really good for our immune system, but the pectin in the apple is also good for our bowel movements. So it's good for clearing the bowel. So, and it's also rich in potassium. It's heart healthy. Apples are very good for your heart.
Here's my cocoa. Am I good?
See there, you're good. Where you got it from? That looks like the real deal.
It is. It came from the Caribbean.
Yes, there you go. Yes, that's the one you get from the tree. So,
yes.
You know, when the brand that Pat picked up a while ago, the Giddy Yo-Yo, when they have a chocolate bar that's just 100% chocolate. It's just cocoa, and people eat thinking that it's going to be sweet. It has absolutely no sweetness to it. It tastes terrible from the perspective where you think it's supposed to be sweet and it's not. But that is like the best thing. So that's what you have there.
I have about 4 of them in my cupboard.
Yeah, very good.
I have another organic one that is quite bitter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be, but some wise person thought that it had sugar to it. And
I don't know if I never looked to see if it had sugar in it. I just know that.
No, if it's bitter, then no.
It's bitter.
It's the real thing. You're good.
So Maggie, I had my question was really quickly. We know that exercise is very good, and exercise, you know, you sweat and the toxins come out.
Perfect.
But what if you're a person who does not sweat outwardly? So I don't drench in sweat. So if I run a marathon, I don't have sweat pouring off my forehead or all over my body. I don't sweat that way. So how does that?
That's a very good point. Some people are like that. I'm sure that if you're running a marathon, you must be drinking a lot of water. I would say you probably need, when you drink your water, to put some electrolytes in there. Natural electrolytes would be like squeezing half of a lemon in the water, adding a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, and maybe a tubs of maple syrup. That's a natural electrolyte lemonade that you can take to help your body to absorb better. If you are, not everybody sweats a lot, but if you're finding that you're not sweating, you might need to do a gentle cleanse, like try drinking lemon water every day. Just because it's just important. But what's important also is if you're moving your lymph. So you can try to do things like investing in a dry brush that moves your lymph, because your lymph doesn't have a pump. Like your heart is the circulatory system for the blood, but your lymph circulates only if you move your body. And maybe sometimes it just means you have a sluggish lymph. If you find that you sweat under the arm, if you try the natural deodorant and it smells very toxic, then you might find that that's something that you just need to do. Maybe try doing trampoline jumping, or even hanging upside down, inversion board. If you have high blood pressure, I don't recommend that you do that for too long though. But just other things that can cleanse you internally, maybe even trying a little bit of chlorophyll in your water. That's a very dark green, natural liquid. That's almost like the blood of the plant. That's where the plant gets the green color from. You go back to your science days when you were in elementary school or junior high school, they would have taught you about photosynthesis and changing the leaves and the green from the sunshine. That's chlorophyll. It's like blood to us. It's the blood to the plant, and it's known as an internal deodorant. It's very cleansing, and maybe that will help you in terms of sweating. But sometimes it can be, I mean, there are some people that have over sweating. They have hyperhidrosis, and some people just don't sweat. Those are usually known as ladies who just feel the heat. You don't sweat.
That's great. Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. But the key for exercise was really to say, move your body, get your oxygen going through your bloodstream, making sure not to overdo it, because when you overdo it, you stress your system and that promotes inflammation. But just move and get the oxygen going. That's even more important. With the toxins, like I said, the gentle cleanse can help to support if you don't sweat that much.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Maggie. I think I knew this was going to be fun. I knew that you were going to be loved. Yeah, don't worry. Don't bother putting it. You just love what you do. And I love you for being here. I think we can all say that we've enjoyed having Maggie here. You can just, if you want to give her some thanks. Maggie, Millwood, you're a peach. Can you put up your slide again where people can reach you?
Sure.
They may have loved ones, they may have friends. If you've been looking for a nutritionist, Maggie's taking clients. You're welcome to contact her. I think that this has been, I think you would probably, Maggie, you tell me, I just ask you a final question. In this period of, we have all kinds of names for this now, this panty that we're going through. Are you finding that are you getting a lot of questions? Are you getting a lot of not feedback, but people reaching out to maintain even their stress levels with their diet in this period?
Yes, I would say there are a lot more people who are looking for natural ways to manage anxiety, managing stress. It seems maybe they were always sitting on the fence until this whole immune challenge from the pandemic came about. But it seems that there are a lot more people who really want to dig deeper and try to utilize food and proper supplementation to help them. Maybe also it's the crisis of knowing you can't just rush to your medical doctor. So they're looking for alternative ways to literally take charge of their health. That's why that's one of my taglines. I've always believed that I should encourage folks to take charge of their health. I think I got that from my grandma. She was really big on that. As I told you, she knew Bernard Jensen, who was the man who said there's life and death in the colon. So yeah, I think you're right. I think more people are more aware now.
Well, we want to thank you so much for your time. It's we're going to wrap up.
Sorry I took so much of it.
No, everybody, well, people are, their comments, people, you can put your comments in the chat. People have enjoyed it. It's been informative. You're a wealth of information. I thank God I thank God for leading you in this path to study nutrition, because the timing of it is awesome. The timing of it is amazing. And he does all things well in his time. And I know that you love him, and I know that you faithfully have served him. Can I just pick on you just a little bit?
You can, of course, no problem.
When you were in Jamaica, just let the people know one thing that you used to do.
When I was in Jamaica, at which stage of my life now? Which one?
Before you even came to Canada, you served people at a beautiful place that many people have.
Okay. So before I came up to Canada, I was working in a couple of industries. One of them, the one that Pat is referring to, is I used to work at Sandals Resorts, and so literally my job was just to stare at the beach and hug up and make the tourist people and feel good. And that was really something I just had fun doing. If you were thinking about something that I loved about growing up in Jamaica, I loved being able to cut open a coconut and drink the water and drink the jelly. That was one of my favorite things. And I grew up very close to Dunn's River Falls. So I used to like to hike up the mountains of the Dunn's River Falls and risk my life, because it was very risky to do that at that time. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And I think you love your birth in Jamaica, your love and your appreciation for fruits and vegetables has probably just heightened it.
For
your
sure.
people to
For
know.
sure. Plus, I was born into a tribe of 12 picnic. So we did have to learn how to survive. Very easy. Very easy to just pick the mango from the tree and just sit down on the whole summer long and just eat. You can't do that here now. You have to.
June says the best fruit is the apple.
It's true. It's true. So, who said that? June said the best fruit is the apple. Which apple? The Otaheite apple? That's a good one.
June, which apple?
Oh, the Otaheite apple.
The Otaheite apple, very delicious.
Love
I
it
agree
gone
with
to
you.
bed.
I agree with you. And the darker the better.
Yes, girl.
Yes. Yes, I knew Mr. Stewart very well. It's very sad, but his time came. He batted a very high age, I think. He didn't make it to 80, but he was still close. And he seems to have left a legacy. So that's good for him.
Well, we're going to call it a wrap tonight. You have Maggie's contact. If you need to get her, I'll be happy to provide. She is taking clients, like I said. She is one of the co-authors on Stronger Resilience. And Maggie, we appreciate you more than you know. I have learned so much. I was writing. I thought that I learned so much before, but I learned a lot. And I think one of the things that we can take away from this is everything good, everything in balance. Yes?
That's right. That's
Because
right.
we can eat good, but we can take it out of balance. Like our friend who had all that licorice thought he was doing good, but blew up his blood pressure. So we're not going to go down that street again. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. If this is your first time, I pray that it won't be your last. Maggie, I think you're coming back because there's so many things that we have to ask you. But we want people to get up and stretch and exercise, yes, so that they can get a good night's sleep. But we'd like to, we'll all be in touch with you if something for you. But we would like to honor and reward those who register early. You show up early, there's always a reward. You show up at church early, you get the best seat in the house. And Octavia and Patrice, you were the first to register. So we'll be in touch with you. We'd just like to give you a little gift. And thank you so much for showing up. Thank you, everybody, for staying to the end. It means a lot to us. If there's a topic or a subject that you have been curious or you have questions on, we would be open to hearing from you. If you have enjoyed tonight, we would really appreciate you sending in just a note to let us know what the meeting did for you and how it encouraged you, so that we can and know what to do better for next time, and also encourage others to join us in our next meeting. So until we meet again, Ms. Leela, I don't think there's anything else to say. I'm going to let everybody go get their turmeric tea.
And golden milk.
Golden milk.
I like to call it golden milk. It'll be golden milk for me from now.
Yeah, it's golden milk. It originated in India. So that's
Golden
what they call
milk
it
is a
over there.
nice way to discreet it, especially if you're making it for somebody who doesn't want to know the name of it.
The last thing I
Right.
make before I go to bed, golden milk.
That's very smart, and it's very warming, so it's particularly delicious to have at winter time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I'm going to go have some.
Everybody pull out your turmeric, your ginger, and make sure you add a bit of black pepper to keep it going. So thank you, everybody, again for joining us. We really appreciate you, and have a pleasant evening. Thank you, Maggie.
And for those of you that joined,
I just wanted to mention that my website is under construction, but it does have a domain. So it's www.perfecthealthsolutions.ca. So look out for that. It will be hopefully up in a month or so.
And I will be sure to let everybody know on one of my Wednesday wellnesses. If you're not following me, you can follow me at Pat Russell Sings. We'll be sure to keep you informed. I think Miss Leela wants to remind everybody about Saturday. If you want to say something else, go ahead, Miss Leela, you have the floor.
about Saturday and that we meet every month also. I know you said it earlier. I just wanted to remind people that every first Tuesday of the month is when we have these meetings.
So keep a check on our social media. I cannot tell you how thankful, how grateful, how much we appreciate you coming tonight. Please pass on this information. Please share the nuggets. Please look out for each other. We are our sister's keeper. let's do our part in reaching out and touching other people. Okay. Happy Black History Month, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Patricia. You did a wonderful, wonderful job.
Yes.
Lovely to meet you all.
It's lovely to meet you too, Maggie. You're coming back for sure.
All right. All right. Take care. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.